I want to bring in ABC News Royals contributor Omid Scobie for a little bit more on the symbolism of the day's event. And there's so much here, Omid. Last night, the coffin spent the night at Buckingham Palace. That gave the family this private moment to mourn the Queen and have her there in the palace for the last time. Today, though, a very public affair, intimate but public. Walk us through those steps and the symbolism in all of that.
Well, as you say, we had that moment last night, which I think for many carried a lot of meaning, seeing the Queen arriving at Buckingham Palace for the very last time. And of course, this morning we saw her leave for the last time. That procession, very muted as it went through the streets of London to Westminster Hall with the royal family members behind. Our sort of first glimpse of the family all together, a preview, if you will, of course, proceedings at the state funeral. A lot of the focus was on the senior family members that were in that procession, but of course inside Westminster Hall there was a much greater presence of the Queen's cousins, her nieces and nephews, their own families as well. As you say, it's that moment that the family handed over the Queen to the state very ceremonially, and I think for all of them coming together you could see the emotion. I think there was a moment where we saw the royal guards stepping in to stand vigil at the Queen's coffin. And I think to the family members, that was the moment where she was handed over to the state. Some might even say sort of she becomes the property of the public. And of course, the public will have that moment, of course, to file past her coffin. Even right now, that queue's over 2.5 miles long. So people are willing to put in the wait to, of course, pay their respects. And, you know, we've seen some of those respects paid by family members as well. Of course, we know the Queen has had a big hand in some of the planning for the state funeral, but we also saw tributes from some of the family members. Kate, now the Princess of Wales, wore a brooch, a pearl and diamond brooch, a leaf brooch that had belonged to the Queen. It was her way of sort of paying her respects. She also wore pearl earrings that had belonged to Princess Diana, probably an homage to taking on the weight of that title that she's now inherited since the death of the Queen. We also saw from Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, who wore a pair of earrings that had been gifted to her by the Queen. And I think if you looked around, the family members all had their own little sort of poignant nods to the life of the Queen. Of course, someone that they were there to all pay their respects to. And last night had that private family moment, no cameras, as they received her coffin at Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, and while today was in many ways a handoff from the family to the state, we will see the family again. You mentioned the guards standing vigil now by the Queen. Just as we saw in Edinburgh, Scotland, we are expecting to see the children of the Queen, what's traditionally called the Prince's Vigil, though Princess Anne making history as the first woman to participate in that tradition in Scotland. We expect to see that again here in London, and then, of course, the family participating in the state funeral. Absolutely.
As we saw that moment in Scotland with Princess Anne, sort of an unprecedented moment, of course, having a female member of the royal family, though she may be 16 in line to the throne, unfortunately through tradition of the men coming first and her falling down the ranks. We saw the significance of her role and, of course, her closeness to the Queen. Of course, hearing that statement that was released by Buckingham Palace where she spoke about the closeness that she had with her mother. I think, as we've said before, many eyes on Anne over the recent days as she's joined that sort of long and arduous journey, an emotional journey from the home in Balmoral where she got to spend those final 24 hours with her mother before she passed away. Of course, now reaching these final moments here in London. I think for her, no doubt, emotions are high, but what we didn't see as she joined that procession today was any of it on her face. There was a stoicism, I think, that's being celebrated and talked about right now. Anne has really been sort of the face of strength throughout this. Even when we saw the tears in King Charles III's eyes as the Archbishop of Canterbury gave that final blessing during the ceremony, Anne still held that composure. And I think that that's, for Britain, that is all about sort of being reserved, holding in the emotions, stiff upper lip. You know, that's what we know from the royal family, and I think that's what we saw on display from Princess Anne today.
But so many placing their emotions in her, thinking, what would I feel like if I had to curtsy in front of my mother's coffin right now with the world watching, if I was there when she passed, if I was accompanying her every step of the way on these flights in Scotland, in London. A lot of this country, when you walk around the streets and you talk to people about what's resonating with them, so many people are looking at Princess Anne right now and saying, how would I feel if I was in her shoes? So in a way, her stoicism is almost bringing out the humanity in others, putting themselves in that position and thinking about the fact that this is not just a country mourning a queen, but also a family mourning a mother, mourning a grandmother. But of course, the focus now is on her role as queen. As the public here mourns the loss of Queen Elizabeth, she now lies in state. And again, the public now gets their chance to come and pay their last respects.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.